यतीन्द्र प्रवणं वन्दे रम्यजामातरं मुनिं रम्यजामातरि योगीन्द्र पादरेखामयं सदा तदा यत्तात्मसत्तादिं रामानुजं मुनिं भजे लोकगुरुं गुरुभिः सह पूर्वैकुलोत्तमदासम् उदारं श्रीनखपत्यभिरामवरेशौ दीप्रशयान गुरुञ्च भजेऽहं लोकाचार्याय गुरवे कृष्णपादस्य सूनवे संसारभोगिसन्दष्टजीवजीवातवे नमः। लोकाचार्यकृते लोकहिते वचनभूषणे तत्त्वार्थदर्शिनो लोके तन्निष्ठाश्च सुदुर्लभाः जगदाचार्य रचिते श्रीमद्वचनभूषणे तत्त्वज्ञानञ्च तन्निष्ठां देहिनाथ यतीन्द्रमे. The most merciful Pililokacharya has given with great compassion this wonderful grantham named SrIvachana Bhushana Divishastram. Manavada Mamnigal beautifully explains all these sUthrams which are in this particular grantham in his wonderful commentary. We are going through the third prakaranam, third section right now. Purushakara Vaibhavam Sadhanasya Gauravam Tadadikari Krityam Asya Sadguru Upasevanam Haridayam Mahetukim Guru Payatanchayo. These are the 6 principles which are explained in 6 sections in this particular grantham. First we saw Purushakara Vaibhavam, that is greatness of peRa. Sadhanasya Gauravam is greatness of bhagavAn, who is the upAyam. And then third is Tadadikari Krityam, the Prapannadikari who pursues bhagavAn as upAyam. His qualities, they are all explained in this particular third section, which is what we are going through now. As part of explaining the Prapannadikari's nature and qualities and so on, prapaththi is also elaborated here in great detail. We have seen up to 141st Sutram. Up to here, Pililokacharya explained the defects of other upayams such as Karma Yogam, Jnana Yogam, Bhakti Yogam, all other upayams other than bhagavAn. And then he identified the greatness of prapaththi. Prapaththi is the acceptance of bhagavAn as upayam. The greatness of prapaththi is in the fact that it is matching the Jivatma Swarupam. It is very easy to do. It gives the result immediately and so on. So all of these were discussed in the Suthrams up to 141. Now we are going to move on to the next topic in this particular third prakaranam, which is Siddhopayanishtar Vaibhavam. That is greatness of those who are pursuing Siddhopayam. Bhagavan is known as Siddhopayam. Siddham means readily available. Bhagavan is always readily available. He is always looking forward to help Jivatmas and uplift Jivatmas. Hence, he is known as Siddhopayam. Unlike Karma Yogam, Jnana Yogam, Bhakti Yogam, Trinama Sankirnam, and all other upayams, where one has to perform some activities to make that particular upayam manifested in them. If one has to be a Karma Yogi, one has to know Ashtanga Yogam, one has to perform Yaga Yajnams, one has to perform Tapasya and all of that. Then only Karma Yogam will manifest in that particular individual. But Bhagavan is readily available. The moment one accepts that Bhagavan is upayam, he is readily willing to help the Jivatma. He is ready to take on all the responsibilities of the Jivatma and so on. So there is nothing which is to be done. As soon as Jivatma realizes his true nature and he accepts that Bhagavan is the upayam, Bhagavan is readily going to act Jivatma's well-being, and he will ensure that Jivatma is delivered at the end of this body itself. So hence he is known as Siddhopayam, the upayam which is readily available. So the person who is accepting Bhagavan as the upayam is known as Siddhopaya Nishtha, one who is in that Nishtai, one who is in that particular firm faith that Bhagavan is the upayam. So such person's greatness is identified in the next set of Suthrams. Mamnigal gives a beautiful introduction for this particular Sutram and this section as well. Let us see that introduction and we will move on to the Suthrams. This particular Grantham is very, very difficult to comprehend fully. We are trying to understand, we are trying to learn the meanings with the help of Manavara Mamnigal's commentary. As it was said in the Taniyan Jagarya Rachite Srimad Vachanabhushane Tattvajnanancha Tannishtam Dehinate Yatindrame. This particular Nishtha, to be fully understanding Sri Vachanabhushanam and to be following Sri Vachanabhushanam's principles, we have to pray to Bhagavad Ramanuja and request him that he grants us such ability. So, with that prayer, let us start today's sequence of Suthrams. We had a little bit of a delay due to this technical glitch. Hopefully, it is resolved now. We are going to start with 142nd Sutram. Let us see Mamnigal's introduction. We are not saying the whole commentary word by word. We are just saying the gist of the commentary, the essential aspects which are highlighted in the commentary. Let us see the introduction of Mamnigal first, and then we will move on to the Sutram and commentary. Now, after explaining the Anupayatvam of prapaththi, now prapaththi itself is not the upayam, it is only that which makes the upayam work. So, it is usually said that prapaththi is not the upayam, but it has the ability to make sure that Bhagavan helps us. So, the anupayatvam of prapaththi, that prapaththi is just a qualification in the jivatma, where the jivatma is announcing that he is willing to accept Bhagavan as upayam. Because by definition, prapaththi is not upayam. Tumeva upaya bhuto me bhava prarthana mati iti prapaththi. So that thought process, that surrender in the mind towards Bhagavan, that is prapaththi. So that itself defines, the definition itself says that prapaththi is not the upayam. It is only a qualification in the jivatma. We have seen that example before. It is like going to a college or a university and placing an application form for getting a seat in the college. Now that just because I have applied, that doesn't give me the seat. We don't get the seat immediately, but it merely filters out several other people who have not applied for that particular seat. So there are maybe 100,000 people who have passed 12th grade and are ready to enter college. Now, among those, only 500 students have applied in this particular college. So the college will only consider those 500 students to be accepted in their college. So similarly, there are so many individuals, so many jivatmas, countless jivatmas. Among those who accept Bhagavan as upayam, they are called as prapannas, and they readily become qualified to be accepted by Bhagavan. But that prapaththi itself is not going to give the result. Just like the application form in the college does not give the result. It is the college's the principal or whoever is the authority, they have to decide whether this person is going to be suitable or not. So that person who is giving the seat, he is the real upayam in the example. Similarly, here Bhagavan's divine will, that is what is going to decide whether a person is going to be accepted or not. Even if one surrenders, it is Bhagavan's acceptance which is most important. So Bhagavan is the upayam, the prapaththi is just a qualification for consideration by bhagavAn. So that anupayatvam was explained, and then paragata svikara upayatvam, that is bhagavAn accepting jivatma directly, that is paragata svikaram. Swagata svikaram is oneself, jivatma going to bhagavAn and surrendering and requesting bhagavAn to help. Paragata svikaram is bhagavAn coming to jivatma and saying that I am going to accept you. So this paragata svikaram is explained as the most apt way for jivatma to be delivered. Bhagavan's acceptance is the ideal way. Bhagavan himself coming and accepting jivatma is the ideal upayam. So that was explained, and that was explained previously itself. That is in 54th sutram. Idhu parthal pitavukku putran eduthu vaanguma pole. There also the example of a son going to a father and asking for guarantee that the father will protect the son. That is very childish, because anyway the father has been protecting the child all along, the son all along. So there is no explicit question which is required to be asked at that stage. Similarly, praptikku upayam avan, that was 66th sutram. Bhagavan's divine thought is the means for the ultimate attainment of liberation for jivatma. So those sutrams explained that bhagavan is the upayam and everything else, even the prapaththi itself is not the upayam. It was explained previously. Now the same thing is explained in a different way. Mukhantarena, that is what Mamnigal is saying. VilakkanRu is explaining it in a different way. That is, when the jivatma is surrendering to bhagavan, trying to force upon bhagavan the result, at that time, if bhagavan is not willing to accept jivatma, that particular surrender will fail. That is the principle being explained here. And it will even lead to displeasure for bhagavan. That is, when bhagavan is planning to do something and we go to him and ask something else, even we may think that it is good for us, but when we ask it, if bhagavan thinks that it is not apt, if we force it, then it becomes even disastrous for the jivatma. That is the principle which is being explained now by vilakkanRu, says Mamnigal in this introduction section. 142nd sutram, even avanaip pera ninaikkumbOdhu indha prapaththiyum upAyamanRu. Even avan. This is like here, there. The jivatma here, paramatma there. Always even means jivatma, avan means paramatma. In 99% of the Vyakyanam's commentaries, this is general understanding. Even avanaip pera ninaikkumbOdhu, when the jivatma tries to reach bhagavan, this prapaththi will not be upayam. What will be upayam? Bhagavan's will be upayam. Because I may be surrendering now, but if bhagavan, for a particular purpose, surrender can be for any purpose. But let us say I am surrendering for ultimate purpose of paramapurushartham, that is moksham, and that too to serve bhagavan eternally in Paramadam. But if bhagavan thinks that I should not be granted moksham at this particular time, then it will not happen. That is what is being explained here. So even avanaip pera ninaikkumbOdhu in the prapaththiyum upayam, this prapaththi is also not the upayam. Mamnigal's commentary, that is, when a property is there, the owner of the property is there. If the owner of the property desires to accept that property or keep that property, that will happen immediately, because he is the owner of the property. If I have, let us say I have this phone, I want to take this phone, I will take it anytime I want and I will keep it. But if the phone wants me to take it, that may happen, that may not happen. Even for a, we may say that it is a achit. Even in the case of jivatma, the same rule will apply. If the or we can say, even in this in the case of achit, we can see this example. Let us say I set an alarm, and let us say that alarm rings. It is still my choice whether I look at that alarm or not. Whether I switch it off or whether I ignore it, it is still my choice because I am the owner of the phone. It is my decision to set the alarm, and it is my decision to accept it or ignore it and handle it accordingly. So, the same thing is explained here by Mamnigal. If the property is desired by the owner of the property, that will happen in a speedy way. That will happen immediately. But if the property, here we can say, let us say we can say that the phone is an achit, and if we take the example of a father and son or a husband or a wife, wherever there is dependence and independence situation, the son is dependent on father, wife is dependent on husband. In a case where the father decides something and the child decides something else, the father is going to make his decision. He is going to make whatever he desires will happen in the end. So even if the son desires for something, it will be overridden by the father generally. So similarly, if Bhagavan desires something, it will happen in a speedy way. But if the Jivatma surrenders to Bhagavan and thinks that he is the one who is going to get the result, he is the one who is forcing the result, then even his prapaththi, his surrender will not be guaranteed that it will lead to the result. That is explained here, and hence that prapaththi of the Jivatma is not the upayam. Upayam is that which leads one to the result immediately. So, in this case, as the Jivatma's prapaththi is not that which decides the result, it is not the upayam. So, that is 142nd Sutram. 143rd Sutram. Now, when Bhagavan himself accepts the Jivatma, what happens? What is the difference there? That is explained in this Sutram, says Mamnigal. Avan ivanaip pera ninaikkumbOdhu pAthakamum vilakkanRu. When Bhagavan has made up his mind that he is going to accept a particular Jivatma, even if the Jivatma has done great sins. Previously, we saw prapaththi is a very good act, very noble act. We saw already that prapaththi is the act of accepting one's true nature and accepting that Bhagavan is everything, Bhagavan is the upayam. So, that is a noble act. Even a noble act will not lead to the result if that is not the intention of Bhagavan. But if Bhagavan's intention is to give result immediately to us, even if we have great sins in us, that will not be a hurdle. It will not stop Bhagavan from helping us. That is what is explained here. Avan ivanaip pera ninaikkumbOdhu pAthakamum vilakkanRu. Pathakam means great sins. Even those will not become a hurdle for Bhagavan's accomplishment of the particular goal. Mamnigal's commentary. That is, Bhagavan is Swami, he is the Lord, and he is the Swatantra, he is an independent person. Unlike Jivatmas who are all dependent on Bhagavan, Bhagavan is Swatantra. Bhagavan is having Swatantriyam, he is Swatantra. So there is no one to question him. And the Jivatma is a Swam. Swam means property, belonging of Bhagavan. When Bhagavan, out of his own will, desires to accept Jivatma, even the most abominable sins like killing someone, um, taking away others' wealth, taking away others' wife. So, even these great sins, if one has done even these great sins, because Bhagavan has made up his mind, there is no hurdle from even such great sins. Because Bhagavan has decided to grant the particular result to the Jivatma. In that case, his decision upholds. His decision is the ultimate decision and nothing can stop it. So by this, the Swagata Svikara, that is Jivatma himself pursuing Bhagavan and trying to reach Bhagavan on his own will, that being Anupayam, that is not the Upayam, and Paragata Swikaram being Upayam, that is bhagavan's acceptance of the jivatma, is the actual upayam that is explained here. A pramanam is also quoted by Mamnigal here. To see the pramanam is quoted to explain this particular principle. Chita paramachillabhe prapaththirapi nopadihi viparyayetu naivasya pratishedaya pathakam. So it is a pramanam which is explaining the same principle for a chEthana, for a jivatma, while he himself accepts Paramatma as the upayam and he pursues Paramatma as the upayam. At that time, even prapaththi is not the means. It is Bhagavan's will which is only the real means. Now, when Bhagavan desires to get this Jivatma, at that time, even great sins which are done by Jivatma will not be a hurdle for Bhagavan to accept, because he has made up his mind. That is explained in this 143rd Sutram. Now 144th Sutram. Have we seen such situation in anyone? That is the question. For that, Pilelokacharya is answering in the 144th Sutram. Says Mamnigal in the introduction, 144th Sutram, ivai iraNdum, Sri bharathAzhwAn pakkalilum, Sri guhapperumAL pakkalilum kANalAm. So the simple mitram is ivai iraNdum. Ivai iraNdum is these two. These two, that is, when Jivatma tries to surrender to Bhagavan on his own and get a particular result, if Bhagavan's will is different, that particular result will not be accomplished. That is number one. Second is Bhagavan tries to get a Jivatma. Even if the Jivatma has great sins, Bhagavan's desire will be fulfilled because he is Swatantra, he is totally independent. That is second point. So these two, ivai iraNdum means these two aspects. They are seen in Sri bharathAzhwAn and Sri guhapperumAL respectively. So in bharathAzhwAn surrendered to Bhagavan, requested Sri Rama to return to Ayodhya, but that did not happen. Even though bharathAzhwAn did proper Sharanagati to Sri Rama, it did not happen because Bhagavan's desire was different. In the case of guhapperumAL, Sri guhapperumAL was a hunter king basically, who was living in the forest. He did not have any good qualities, he did not have any not even basic discipline. Yet when Bhagavan decided to accept him as his brother and close friend, at that time, irrespective of what the qualities of guhapperumAL, Bhagavan's mercy fell upon him and it um, worked for guhapperumAL. So in these two examples, the above principles, whatever principles which were explained here, they can be seen. That is explained in the 144th Sutra commentary by Mamnigal, because it is going to be explained in the next Sutram in detail. 145th Sutram. Now Mamnigal says in the introduction, how is these two aspects seen? How are these two aspects seen in bharathAzhwAn and guhapperumAL? That is the question. For that, Pilelokacharya is mercifully explaining in the 145th Sutram, bharathAzhwAnukku nanmaidHANE thImaiyAyththu, Sri guhapperumALukku thImaidHANE nanmaiyAyththu. So the Sutram simple meaning is, for Sri bharathAzhwAn, nanmaidHANE thImaiyAyththu, that is, nanmai, his noble quality of being very attached to Sri Rama, and he went and surrendered to Sri Rama in a very proper way. So this is his nanmai. Nanmai means his goodness, his good quality of surrendering to Bhagavan. That became thImai. ThImai means bad result. he did not expect that result. He thought he would be able to convince Sri Rama. Hence, that particular result he was expecting did not happen for Sri bharathAzhwAn. For Sri guhapperumAL, thImaidhAnE nanmaiyAyththu. He had all the bad qualities one can imagine. Mamnigal is going to highlight those in the commentary. Yet, because bhagavAn himself came all the way to the banks of river Ganges and in the Ganga Tiram where guhapperumAL was living, Sri Rama himself came and he himself accepted Sri guhapperumAL. Hence, all his bad qualities became irrelevant and Bhagavan's acceptance became relevant. So, even his bad qualities ended up into a very noble situation for him. That is explained in this particular sutram. Mamnigal's commentary. Sri bharathAzhwAnukku nanmaidhAnE thImaiyAyththu. Sri guhapperumALukku thImaidhAnE nanmaiyAyththu. From these two sentences here, we will see how Mamnigal explains this particular principle. That is, while Sri bharathAzhwAn desired to bring back Sri Rama, crown him in the throne, make him the king again, and he wanted to serve Sri Rama. So all of these are very, very noble aspects. All of these are very apt for Sri bharathAzhwAn's situation. He wanted to do the service which is apt for his true nature, Kainkariam. For that, as said in, see the Pramanam here, Sri Ramayanam is quoted here. Ebishcha sachivaschardham shirasa yachito maya bratu shishyasya dasasya prasadam kartum arhati. So here, Sri bharathAzhwAn prays to Sri Rama. I am your brother. I am your disciple. I am your servant. You have to show me your mercy. I have come here along with all the ministers, all the citizens of Ayodhya, Sri Ayodhya. When bharathAzhwAn came, he did not just go on his own. He actually gathered all the people of Ayodhya and he went to meet Sri Ram because he thought, even if Sri Rama does not become merciful seeing my pitiful state, at least he will become merciful seeing all the people of Ayodhya who are all suffering in separation of Sri Rama. Hence, he gathered all of them, all the ministers, all the citizens of the Ayodhya, and they all went to see Sri Rama in Chitrakutam. That is where Sri Rama was present at that time. And at that time, Sri Rama refused because he had different plans. He had to um, go and kill Ravana. He had to go and kill many of the Rakshasas who were living in many of the forests. So his vow was to help all the sages, remove the burden from the earth, and so on. Hence, even though Sri bharathAzhwAn performed Sharanagati with great faith, with great discipline, with great love, and so on, still that Sharanagati, prapaththi, did not materialize. In fact, Bhagavan became upset that Sri bharathAzhwAn is trying to put hurdles in his mission. Hence, he said, I cannot come along with you. You can return to Ayodhya. You have to stay in Ayodhya, take care of the kingdom, and so on. And he ordered Sri bharathAzhwAn to return. In the end, bharathAzhwAn accepted and he prayed for the padukas, the sandals of Bhagavan, divine sandals of Bhagavan. And then he got them and he went with that and he installed the padukas as the king of the kingdom and he ruled under the padukas. So here, even though Sri bharathAzhwAn was a very noble personality, very noble devotee of Bhagavan, his intentions were very noble, his execution was also very noble, yet it ended up not materializing for him. So that is explained here. Hence, when Bhagavan's desire is different from Jiva's desire, Bhagavan's desire will only win. That is explained in the first part. Second part, as in ஏழை கீழ்மகன் என்னாது. This is from பெரிய திருமொழி, very famous pasuram, where it is explained Bhagavan accepted Sri guhapperumAL as his brother. In this particular pasuram in பெரிய திருமொழி, Tirumala highlights the defects of Sri guhapperumAL detail. ஏழை ஏதலன் கீழ்மகன் என்னாது இறங்கி மற்றற்கு இன்னருள் சுரந்து மாழைமான் மடநோக்கி உன்தோழி உம்பி எம்பி என்று ஒழிந்திலை உகந்து தோழனி எனக்கு இங்கொழி என்ற சொற்கள் வந்து அடியேன் மனத்திருந்திட ஆழிவண்ணனின் அடியனை அடைந்தேன் அணிபொழில் திருவரங்க தம்மானே. This pasuram is for Sri Ranganatha Periya Perumal, given by Tirumangayalvar. Tirumangayalvar is saying he is enjoying Sri Ramavataram in this particular pasuram, especially how he befriended guhapperumAL. guhapperumAL is ஏழை ஏதலன் கீழ்மகன். ஏழை means very very visheshapala, that is always looking for something, always desirous of other people's wealth, other people's belongings and so on. Edalan means one who is very inimical towards everyone. Even it is said in the commentary that when he asks food from his mother, he would show his knife, place it on her neck and say, are you going to give me food or not? Such is his cruelty. Keelmagan is also born in a forest dwelling clan. So he is very inferior in that particular aspect as well. Such particular guhapperumAL was accepted by Bhagavan, Sri Rama, as his brother. Even though guhapperumAL did not try to go and surrender to Sri Rama, it was Sri Rama who came up to the place where guhapperumAL was residing. So all the defects of guhapperumAL, such as being an Ezhai, being an Edalan, being a Keelmagan, all of these were considered as offerings by Bhagavan, and he accepted guhapperumAL in that manner. So Pathakam means very sinful, very abominable defects, acts. So those became the offerings here for Bhagavan. So here the two aspects. One is Jivatma surrendering to Bhagavan. When the surrender is not in line with Bhagavan's thought process, then that surrender will fail. When Bhagavan accepts a Jivatma, whether the Jivatma is qualified or not, whether the Jivatma is willing or not, he will ensure that that particular Jivatma is accepted by him. So these two principles are explained. Mamnigal beautifully quotes Kurathalwan's, Kuresha Swami's shlokam from Atimanushastamam, very beautiful shlokam, very important point is being explained here. Yatvat priyam tadiha punyam apunyam anyat nanyattayor bhavati lakshanamatra jatu durdaitam tavahi yatkila rasa ghosh tatkirtanam paramapavanam amananti. Very beautiful shlokam in Atimanushastamam. In this shlokam, Kurathalwan is saying that whatever is desirable to you, that is punya, that is pious, that is virtue. Whatever is not desirable for your heart, that is papa. So definite general definition for punyam and papam, we will say good deeds, noble deeds, and then wiseful acts, very bad acts, and so on. But that is not the actual definition. The actual definition of punya papa is what is desirable Bhagavan, for Bhagavan, what is pleasing for Bhagavan, that is punya. What is not pleasant for Bhagavan's divine heart, that is papa. Now, Kurathalwan beautifully explains this with an example. You performed Rasakrita. Rasakrita is playful acts with the Gopikas by Krishna. Usually, if one particular man dances with many girls in the night time and enjoying like that, that will be considered a very lowly aspect in any human standards. But because you did that, because Bhagavan did that, that becomes very, very, very pious, very, that is what Kurutavan is saying, Paramapavana. Paramapavana means it will purify others. Not only it is a very enjoyable act for you, but just thinking about that and speaking about that particular activity of yours, that will purify those who do it. So if we speak about Rasa Krida, normally that act may be considered as very bad in the humanly standards, but because Bhagavan did it, even such will purify those who speak about it, those who sing about it, those who praise it. Hence, this principle of Bhagavan's desire, Bhagavan's choice having importance is highlighted here. So that is Paragata Swikaram always wins, always is the best. Swagata Swikaram is always inferior. It is better than other aspects, but still surrendering on one's own and pushing that to Bhagavan is considered as contrary to the Jivatma's true nature. So that is 145th Sutram. Now 146th Sutram. Mamnigal's introduction for this Sutram. Previously, Pililokacharya explained that if the surrender is not in line with Bhagavan's divine heart, then it will be counted as one of the aparadams, that is apacharams, a mistake, because we are doing something against the will of Bhagavan. If he is deciding, let us say, if he is deciding to give moksham to us 10 years later, and if we say that now I want moksham immediately, then that is also something which we are going against his will. For an example, we can see that. Now, subsequently, if we look at all the previous acts of the Jivatma, Jivatma has been in the samsaram since time immemorial. There is no beginning for Jivatma's presence in the samsara. Different people may see, say, Jivatma in different ways. Some people may say that Jivatma has been in samsaram suddenly. He appeared, he was created by Bhagavan. Some people say that Jivatma was in Paramapadam previously and due to his desire he came here and so on. But there is no support for such principles in Vedantam. Vedantam clearly says that Jivatma has been in samsara since time immemorial because there is no falling down from Paramapadam. There is no coming back from Paramapadam. If you go to Paramapadam, then we have to stay there. That is the ultimate destination, and there is no coming because there is no reason for anyone to come back to samsara. Bhagavan will ensure that we stay there. So this Jivatma has been in samsara. That is Jivatma as in Baddhatmas. Those who are bound in this samsara today, they have been always bound. It is not that they were free before and now they are bound. All the Jivatmas who are present in samsara, they are always bound here. Since our Atma in this samsara, since time immemorial, there is always papams which are accumulated and again and again and again. There is no end to the papams which have been accumulated by the Jivatma. Hence, this Jivatma now goes and surrenders to Bhagavan. This surrender itself is a prayachittam for all the sins which the Jivatma committed. That is, it is an atonement for all the sins we have committed so far. How do we know that? That is going to be explained by Mamunigal in the commentary. But our prapaththi, whatever our surrender we are doing, that is an atonement for all the sins. Now, this prapaththi, looking at all the sins we have committed, and looking at the fearless state with which we are going to Bhagavan and we are surrendering, even after doing all of these sins, then it means that that prapaththi also needs one more atonement. So we are doing an atonement in the form of prapaththi for all our previous sins, but because we are boldly, very bravely going to Bhagavan and saying, accept me, even after committing so many mistakes, that itself needs another atonement. that, oh, I have done this mistake of going to Bhagavan and requesting him to forgive all my sins. How dare? How can I do that? After doing all of these sins, how, with what face can I go to Bhagavan? That is the reason for this prapaththi to be considered as requiring another atonement itself. So that is explained in this particular sutram by Pillalokacharya, says Mamnigal in the introduction. 146th சூத்திரம், சர்வ அபராதங்களுக்கும் பிராயஷ்சித்தமான பிரபத்தி தானும் அபராத கோட்டியிலேயாய் க்ஷாமம் பண்ண வேண்டும்படி நிலா நின்றதிரே. சர்வாபராதங்களுக்கும் பிராயஷ்சித்தமான பிரபத்தி. Sarvaparadhangal, that means all aparadams, all mistakes, all apacharams we have done, all errors we have committed all along in our countless births, all of that need an atonement. What is that atonement? Prapaththi is that atonement. We have no other choice. We have to go and fall at the feet of Bhagavan and pray to him that he forgives all of our sins. That is the only way. So this surrender is the only way. Now this prapaththi itself is to be considered among the aparadams, in the group aparadams, and pray for forgiveness for boldly coming in front of Bhagavan to perform this surrender even after committing so many mistakes. That is the simple meaning for this particular sutram. Let us see Mamnigal's explanation. It is a very, very important explanation that all the offenses which we do, all the mistakes which we do, prapaththi is the only solution for that. Surrender is the only solution. Even when we commit mistakes again and again, even after Sharanagati, this is why in our Sampradayam, our Acharyas don't recommend any other prayachittam. Like we are not into doing pariharams or prachittams which are given by astrologers, josiya, jyotisha persons. They will say, if you have done this mistake, you go and do this particular atonement. None of that is recommended in our sampradayam, because our sampradayam clearly is dependent on Bhagavan. All the jivatmas are fully dependent on Bhagavan. Hence, we cannot go and seek any other ways to remove our problems. We are fully dependent on Bhagavan, and Bhagavan will remove them at the apt time, at the apt situation. So, prapaththi, the surrender, is the only atonement we can do. We cannot do any other ways of atonement. No other prayachittam will be accepted. This is also a practical example we can see is even in our Sandhyavandanam. When we do pradhanam, we should not miss the proper timing for Sandhyavandanam, especially Arghya Pradhanam. But even if we miss Arghya Pradhanam, some acharyas say that we should not do the prayachita argyam, because ideally we will not be missing Sandhyavandanam, and we will also not be delaying the Sandhyavandanam due to any other materialistic reasons. Only because of Kainkaryam or being engaged in Bhagavad Vishayam, that could be the only reason for missing the proper time for Sandhyavandanam. Hence, the prayachittam need not be done even in that case, because we are not doing anything in a materialistic way and delaying the Sandhyavandanam, but it is only due to our situation in Kainkaryam. I gave this example to say that no other prayachittam is recommended in our sampradayam other than surrender. Even when we do mistakes, when we realize the mistake, we have to beg for forgiveness from Bhagavan, and if we did the mistake towards Bhagavatas, then we have to beg for forgiveness from that Bhagavata, particular Bhagavata, and also remember the Sharanagati we did previously and say that, being a surrendered soul, I have done this mistake again. Hopefully, I will not do this again. That is the only prayer we can have. So that is explained here. Now, why is surrender the remedy for all the mistakes? How is that explained? That is given by Mamnigal very, very beautifully. First, this when we do the surrender, as shown in Shastram, This is in Sri Pancharatram. Ahamasmi aparadhanam alayah. In this particular shlokam, Ahamasmi aparadhanam alayah akinchanaha agatihi. In this, it is said that I am an abode of mistakes. I have full of mistakes. I am full of mistakes. And I have no other means. I have no other refuge as well. In saying this, one surrenders to Bhagavan. When we surrender, we have to do Akinchanyam and Ananyagatitvam, and we have to highlight that we are full of mistakes. Saying that, we surrender to Him. Now, when we surrender to Him, as said in Sarvadharman Paritijya Mamekam Sharanam Raja, Bhagavan is saying, you surrender unto me. After saying that, he says, Sarva Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayishyami. So, Bhagavan is saying, I will eliminate all the hurdles. Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayishyami. I will liberate you from all the sins. So, here it is very clear from Bhagavan's statement that when one surrenders, one gets relief from all the previous sins. So that is a very straightforward proof for surrender being, prapaththi being the prachitam for all our offenses, previous offenses. So such prapaththi, now this prapaththi itself again, we have to think twice. How dare we go to Bhagavan, stand in front of him and request that you forgive all my sins, countless sins in all our previous births. With a straight way to Bhagavan, and we request him to do that without any shy or fear. For that, we should ask for another forgiveness shown by Bhagavad Ramanuja's Gadyatrayam, that is Sharar, and before performing and after performing, he again prayed for forgiveness for doing prapaththi. So that particular example is highlighted by Manavada Mamnigal. Now, Manavada Mamnigal naturally is the reincarnation of Bhagavad Ramanuja, so he knows exactly with what intention and other two Gadyams. So he clearly narrates what happened there. So, Padharavindayuganam Sharanamham Prapadhye. So this was done by Bhashyakara, that is Bhagavad Ramanuja. Mamnigal usually quotes appropriate name of Bhagavad Ramanuja while addressing him. So here he says, in many places, Mamnigal uses the name Bhashyakara for Bhagavad Ramanuja because Bhashyakara means one who is in Vedantam, one who is well versed in Shastram, and one who is very, very clear in the principles of Shastram. Because that is what is the important quality which is required in the Acharya. Bhagavad Ramanuja being Bhashyakara, being the commentator of Sri, words and deeds are of primary importance for us. Prime importance for us. Being his reincarnation, he is recollecting what he did in the Sharanagadi Gadyam and he is saying it here. So he says, after Bhagavad Ramanuja performing surrender, saying Padharavindayuganam Sharanaham Prapadhye, and then considering that itself as part of an offense, a mistake, he again starts Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva Bandhus. Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva Bandhuscha Gurustvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tayakayam Prasadaye Twam Hamijametyam Piteva Putrasya Sakeva Sakyuhu Priya Priyayarhasi Sodhum. So in this particular sequence, Bhagavad Ramanuja is telling Sri Ranganatha Namperumal that when a son comes to father and prays for forgiveness, the father will readily accept. He will not see the mistakes of the son. When a friend comes to his close dear friend and asks for forgiveness, that friend will not look at the mistakes done by the other person. In this manner, Bhagavad Ramanuja is telling Bhagavan that he should forgive this surrender also. This prapaththi also is an act of arrogance, that after committing so many mistakes, I am boldly coming in front of you and requesting pardon for that. So Bhagavad Ramanuja said there that forgive me for that particular prapaththi also. So that is explained here, that all the um, sins, all the mistakes are forgiven by the prapaththi, and that prapaththi itself forgiven by Bhagavan's grace. So that is explained here. Now, even after doing so many mistakes, even after performing so many apacharams, aparadams, looking at Bhagavan's grace here, beautiful shlokam quoted by Mamnigal, Ripunamapi Vatsalaha. That is Bhagavan. This is from Sri Ramayanam, where Sri Rama is glorified as one who is friendly, one who is very, very loving, even towards his enemies. And then Yadiva Ravana Swayam. So when Vibhishanalvan came to surrender to Sri Rama, at that time there was a big debate between Sri Rama, Sugriva Maharaja, Jambavan, and Hanuman, and so on. Finally, everyone is convinced that Sri Rama will accept Sugriva Maharaja, and that Rama will accept Vibhishanalvan. Now, at that time, Sri Rama sends Sugriva Maharaja to bring Vibhishanalvan to him. He says that even if Ravana is there along with Vibhishanalvan, don't come back and start the debate again. You just bring him. I will accept even Ravana if he comes to surrender to me. So that was the heart of Bhagavan. Bhagavan is so merciful that he will even accept those who abused him, those who offended him, and those who committed so many mistakes all along. So his looking at his state, there is nothing wrong that he is accepting anyone. Now, even if Bhagavan is like that, the Jivatma should not think, oh yeah, he is going to accept all our mistakes. Let me just go and do prapaththi to him and will make him forget all his mistakes. No, the Jivatma should still feel that while Bhagavan is so mercifully, compassionately accepting me and ignoring my mistakes, I have to be asking for pardon from him again, for coming in front of him and standing in front of him and requesting for such forgiveness. So that is the stage of Jivatma. That is why this prapaththi is done, and again we pray to Bhagavan that he forgives us for doing this. So that is explained in 146th Sutram. Now 147th Sutram. A practical example is given by Pillai Lokacharya to explain this particular principle. That is, Mamnigal is explaining this in the introduction. The prapaththi which is done by Jivatma, if we look at his previous accumulated sins and activities, sinful activities, it will look like the prapaththi is also a part of the another forgiveness which he need to beg from Bhagavan. Another mistake he is committing. For that, Pillai Lokacharya is explaining with an example. நெடுநாள் அந்நியபரையாய் போந்த பாரியை லஜ்ஜா பயங்கள் இன்றிக்கே பர்த்துர் சகாசத்திலே நின்று என்னை அங்கீகரிக்க வேண்டும் என்று அபேட்சிக்குமா போலே இருப்பதொன்றே இவன் பண்ணும் பிரபத்தி. The Jivatma is performing prapaththi, he is performing surrender. This resembles a particular situation which is explained by Pillai Lokacharya here. நெடுநாள் அந்நியபரையாய் போந்த பாரியை, a wife who has been away from a husband and interest was engaged with other men. She was somehow attached to other men and she was away from the husband. Now, after some time, she realizes her mistake. She comes back to the husband and she prays to the husband to forgive her without any shame or fear. At that time, what will be the situation of the wife and what will be the situation of the husband. The same situation is observed here in the prapaththi, in the surrender. Because the Jivatma has been away from Bhagavan for years of time. Without any beginning, he has been away from Bhagavan, he has been engaged in many, many sinful activities. Yet, now that Bhagavan has given the knowledge to Jivatma, he is coming to surrender to Bhagavan. Now, when he comes to surrender to Bhagavan, he should be feeling shameful and fearful that I have been away from Bhagavan for all along, engaged in worldly pleasures. What a shame that was. And what will he do looking at me who has been away from him for all along? He should have that fear. So, without that fear and shame, if one goes in front of Bhagavan, that will be similar to a wife who has been away from her husband with other men, staying with other men, but now she is returning back without any shame or fear. That is the same situation here. VilakkanRu, Mamnigal's commentary. Now we may wonder why um, VilakkanRu is giving such worldly examples to prove this point. But the intention here is to make sure that we understand the principle here. He is presenting the greatest philosophy of Sharanagati. For that to be understood clearly and the impact of Sharanagati, the significance of Sharanagati to be understood, unless we see these examples, we will not understand. They know it very well. Acharyas know the impact very clearly. That is why they are taking so much pain in explaining this. But to make us understand, they give these examples. It is not just Pilelokacharya, many other acharyas in many Vyakyanams, they give such examples so that we understand the principle with what we see in the world in front of us. Again, some of these may be rare occasions, but still such occasions occur. With those occasions, we can relate to Sharanagati and understand the principle very clearly. That is explained here. Let us see Mamnigal's commentary. Here, a woman who has become detached from her husband for a long time, she was roaming around with other men and having very inferior desires and was engaged in that. But after some time, she realized her mistake and she comes back to her husband, and without any shame or fear. Shame is for thinking that I have been away with other men, giving up my husband for so long. She should feel shameful for that. And then fear is, what if he punishes me for my mistake? So, without those two, if one comes and stands in front of her husband, that will be very, very um, bad for her. It will create further anger in the husband. He will think, how dare you come in front of me and request forgiveness? Similarly, Jivatma, who is destined to be serving Bhagavan all along, has been engaged in materialistic activities in this world, accumulating sins. Such person, without any shame or fear, coming and seeking Bhagavan through Sharanagati, will be very, very bad. It will look very bad on the Jivatma has all the right to be very, that is why, and so on, so that Pirati will pass Bhagavan and help the Jivatma reach Bhagavan. So this is where the Swagata Svikara Upayatvam and Anupayatvam and Paragata Svikara Upayatvam, that is explained. Swagata Svikaram is Jivatma himself voluntarily in coming to surrender to Bhagavan with some knowledge. That is Swagata Svikaram. That is still bound to cause some anger in Bhagavan that even after doing all these mistakes, you are coming to me. But Paragata Svikaram, if Bhagavan himself comes to Jivatma, then it will be proper. It will be very reasonable for the Jivatma. That is explained in this particular sutram. So this particular prapaththi, the Sharana Varanam, that is pursuing bhagavAn on one's own, that is called Swagata Swikaram, prapaththi. Even that is inferior compared to Paragata Swikaram. That is explained in a different way. We saw in the beginning of today's session that Mamnigal said in the 142nd Sutram's introduction that Swagata Swikaram and Paragata Swikaram are explained in a different context here. That is what is done up to here, 147th Sutram. That is 147th Sutram. We have 148, 149 and 150. It will probably take only 5-10 minutes for these three Sutrams. They are very straightforward Sutrams. Let us see them and complete the particular section and we move on to the next one in the next session. So 148th Sutram now. Just it will take 10 minutes maximum. Now, when Jivatma comes and surrenders to bhagavAn, what happens is bhagavAn's mercy is kindled, whether by Pirati or whether himself. Usually, Pirati is the one who performs Purushakaram. She triggers the good qualities such as compassion, motherly forbearance, that is Vatsalyam, and so on from in bhagavAn. And then, out of his mercy, bhagavAn accepts this way. Then, second way is bhagavAn himself coming to the Jivatma. That is out of his Swatantriyam. So here, in this Sutram, 148th Sutram, Pililokacharya is explaining that more than Paratantriyam, that is Paramatma, trying to work for Jiva, trying to take up the responsibility of Jivatma, out of his mercy, more than that, if the same thing out of his own Swatantriyam, that is his own independence, that Paratantriyam will be very strong, very powerful. Says Pililokacharya in this particular Sutram, Kripayale varum Paratantriyathil Katil, Swatantriyatale varum Paratantriyam Prabalam. Paratantriya means Bhagavan's obedience towards the Jivatma. Now, obedience is what here? Obedience means Bhagavan fulfilling the desire of Jivatma to reach Paramatma in Paramapadam and accepting his eternal service. So that obedience, Bhagavan fulfilling such desires of the Jivatma, if that comes out of his Swatantriyam, that will be powerful and long lasting compared to it is coming through his mercy. Because when it comes through his mercy, sometimes his Swatantriyam, his independence may stop that. But when it comes through his independence, there is nothing to it. That is the simple meaning here. Mamnigal also explains the same thing here. That is, when a person becomes sorrowful and surrenders to Bhagavan, at that time Bhagavan naturally becomes merciful towards that person and accepts that person. But if his Swatantriyam rises, if Bhagavan thinks, why should I keep protecting this person? Let me just push him away. If such thought comes to him, then he will push him away. He will push the Jivatma away. But if he accepts the Jivatma out of his Swatantriyam, his own will, then nothing is there to push the Jivatma out. That is explained here. This is similar to Patattukuri Aanayum Arasum. That is, in the olden days, a king may choose his successor directly. He will just go to the streets, he will find someone and he say, this is the next king. That happens sometimes. If he chooses that, there is no one who can change it. Similarly, if the king is not there, the ministers will give land to the hand, to the trunk of an elephant, of the prime elephant, of the chief elephant of the elephant army in the kingdom. That elephant will go around the town and the elephant will put the garland on a particular person's neck, choosing that particular person to be the king. When the elephant chooses, nobody can question it. That person will become the king, even if he is a pauper. If that person is a pauper, he will become a king. So, based on these two examples, just as when king or a elephant chooses the particular success, nobody can question it. Similarly, chooses the result for the Jivatma out of Yam, nothing will stop it from happening. There is no failure in that particular case, says Mamnigal in the commentary. He says, when Bhagavan gives refuge due to his mercy, sometimes later his independence may make him think, why should I continue to protect him? Let him protect himself. So there is possibility of break in protection in the case of Swagata Swikaram. Again, Kripayale Varum Paratantri means it is a result of Swagata Swikaram. Because the Jivatma is pursuing Bhagavan and Bhagavan out of his mercy accepting the Jivatma. That may fail, but the Bhagavan himself coming and accepting Jivatma, there is no failure in that particular case. That Paratantriyam, that obedience of Bhagavan towards Jivatma will never fail. That will remain permanently safe. Mamnigal in the commentary. Next, 149th Sutram, Mamnigal's introduction, he says, Pulilokacharya is saying that this particular principle is desired by Veda Purusha also. Veda Purusha means Vedam. Vedam itself desires this particular principle. Says Pallilokacharya in 149th Sutram, Ivvartatai Veda Purushan Apekshitan. Veda Purusha means Vedam generally. Veda Purusha himself desired for this particular meaning. Mamnigal's commentary. Now, Ivartham means this particular principle. That is, this principle of Paragata Swikaram. This Paragata Swikaram is greatly recommended in Shastram also, in Vedam also. Where is that? It is in Nayamatma Shruti. This is greatly celebrated as Nayamatma Shruti. It is in Mundaka Upanishad. Mundaka Upanishad has this particular shlokam. Nayamatma pravachanena labhyo namedhaya na bahuna Shrutena yame vaisha vivrunute tena labhyas tasyaisha atma vivrunute tanum swam. Bhagavan will show his form to whomsoever he desires. Not because a person is in dhyanam and upasanam and so on. Not because one is fully surrendered to. It is because of Bhagavan's will that he decides to choose. He decides to show his form to someone he desires. So, based on that particular Nayamatma Shruti, which is explained in Katavalli and Mundaka Upanishad. Both Katavalli Upanishad also has this particular shlokam, and Mundaka Upanishad also has this particular shlokam, says Mamnigal. And because it is said in two Upanishads, the emphasis is to be understood here, and someone will repeat the particular verse again and again because he likes it so much. That is why here Vedam likes it so much, and hence Vedam is repeating it in two places, not just one. So this Nayatma Shruti is very, very famous Shruti. It explains that Bhagavan will show his form only to those who he desires, not the individual's not based on the individual's desires, but Bhagavan's desires. So that is 149th Sutram. Now 105th Sutram. Now there is a question. Mamnigal raises this question in the introduction section. Italail apeksha. That is, if there is no, where did that Bhagavan came and accepted those who did not have specific desire towards him? Are there any examples? That is the question. For that, Acharya is saying, Apeksha nirapekshamaga tiruvadikum Sri guhapperumALukkum idu undaitru. Apeksha nirapekshamaga, that is, Apeksha means expectation, Nirapeksha means without any expectation. So without any expectation of the Jivatma's expectation. First Jivatma is expecting that Bhagavan will help, and then Bhagavan comes and helps based on Jivatma's expectation. But here, Apeksha nirapekshamaga, there is no expectation from Jivatma. So Bhagavan is not expecting that Jivatma should expect anything from him. So without that expectation, திருவடிக்கும் ஸ்ரீ குஹப்பெருமாளுக்கும், for Hanuman and Sri Guhapperumal, இது உண்டாயிற்று. This particular Paragata Swikaram occurred to them, says Pillokacharya in this sutram. That is, while Guhapperumal or Hanuman did not have any direct interest to reach bhagavAn immediately, in Pampathiram and Ganga Kulam, Mamnigal's commentary is so beautiful that he uses the apt words from the shlokam itself. In Pampathiram, Sri Rama meets Hanuman. In Ganga Kulam, Sri Rama meets Guhapperumal. Both Kulam and Thiram indicate the same meaning, bank. Pampathiram means on the banks of river Pampa. Ganga Kulam means on the banks of river Ganga. So in both these places, bhagavAn, Perumal, that is Sri Rama, he himself came and accepted Hanuman and Guhapperumal respectively. So Guhapperumal was accepted in Ganga banks. Hanuman was accepted in Pampathiram. We can see in both of their lives, they did not perform any particular penance or any particular effort to reach bhagavAn. Hanuman, even though he was given a boon by he will see Paramatma at the right time, still Hanuman was completely devoid of all that. He had gotten his own true state. Only after Rama coming up the Pampa river, where Hanuman goes to meet them, bhagavAn mercifully manifests his beautiful form to Hanuman and wins over Hanuman's heart. So in Pampathiram, when Hanuman saw Sri Rama, he did not have any desire to be totally surrendered to Sri Rama, and he didn't want to totally be engaged in Rama Kaikaryam. But it happened to him based on bhagavAn's mercy. Similarly, in the Ganga Kulam, on the banks of river Ganga, bhagavAn himself went to Sri Guhapperumal's place and accepted Guhapperumal as his brother. It was not that Guhapperumal had done very pious activities. He has done a lot of abominable activities only. Yet, it is bhagavAn's will that Guhapperumal should be accepted as his brother. Hence, he did that. So, from this, we can see examples for Paragata in the case of Hanuman and in case of Guhapperumal, that bhagavAn performed Paragatswaram where he accepted those two out of his own will, says Mamnigal in the commentary here. With this, we will stop today and we will continue on in the next session. It took a little bit extra time today because we started a little bit late, but hopefully it is okay, because I didn't want to leave related suthrams for the next session as much as possible. If we really go out of time, then we will have to do that, but as much as possible we can see related sutras together. But next sutram is also related, but again we will be extending the session too much if we go beyond that. So we will stop here. We will recite Landu and we'll complete the session. Alvar Thirudigade Sharanam, Embermanar Thirudigade Sharanam, Thirudigade Sharanam, Jiyar Thirudigade Sharanam, Jiyar Thirudigade Sharanam. பல்லாண்டு பல்லாண்டு பல்லாயிரத்தாண்டு பல கோடி நூறாயிரம் மல்லாண்டு திண்டோள் மணிவண்ணா உன் சேவடி செவிதிரு காப்பு அடியோமோடும் நோடும் பிரிவின்றி ஆயிரம் பல்லாண்டு வடிவாயின மார்பினில் வாழ்கின்ற மங்கையும் பல்லாண்டு வடிவார் சோதி வளத்துறையும் சுடராழியும் பல்லாண்டு படைப்போர் புக்கம் வழங்கும் அப்பாஞ்சு சங்கியமும் பல்லாண்டு. Tomorrow morning we won't have class because I have a little bit of other engagements. There is also program at the temple, because here tomorrow is Davanotsavam. So we won't have morning class tomorrow. We will resume Saturday and we will continue on with the next set of sutrams. We are closely following Tamil sutrams. We are getting close to 190th sutram. In that range we are in Tamil commentary, where we are seeing that daily 5 days a week, but this one we are seeing only 2 days a week, yet we are going pretty close, which is good, because when I am explaining Tamil, it is easy for me to recollect and explain the same thing in English. So So in that way, it is good. Though we are not going through the commentary word by word, we still cover all the principles which are explained in the Sutram. So it's a little bit tough for me to explain all of this in English because the it is very in depth and we have to find the apt words as well. I'm trying my best. Hopefully, it is making some sense to everyone. So we'll stop here today and we'll resume next Saturday. Adiyan Ramandasan. If there are any specific doubts, please make a note of them. We'll definitely address them in the next session. Today it's getting a little bit late, so we won't be able to address them. But next session we will definitely address the doubts also. Adiyan Ramandasan.